For nearly 2 decades, a predator haunted the Pacific Northwest, leaving a trail of fear, devastation, and unanswered questions. Between 1982 and 1998, scores of women, many of them young, vulnerable sex workers, vanished from the Seattle area. Their remains would later be discovered near the banks of the Green River, in remote wooded areas and along desolate roadsides. Police called him the Green River Killer. He called his victims trash. But behind the faceless moniker was Gary Leon Ridgway, a quiet, unassuming truck painter who would go on to confess to the murders of 71 women and is suspected of killing even more. The nightmare began in July 1982 when the bodies of Wendy Lee Caulfield and 3 other young women were found in or near the Green River in King County, Washington. All were known to have been involved in sex work or had run away from home, putting them at higher risk and, at the time, on the fringes of law enforcement concern. Police quickly realized they had a serial killer on their hands, especially as bodies continued to appear in similar locations. Victims were often strangled, some with their own clothing, and left in clusters. Many had been sexually violated post-mortem. Task forces were formed, leads were chased, suspects were interrogated. Among them was Gary Ridgway. Questioned as early as 1983, he admitted to soliciting sex workers but denied involvement in the murders. Police even administered a polygraph test, which Ridgway passed. With little physical evidence and no solid witness accounts, he slipped through the cracks. Ridgway lived in the suburb of Auburn and worked for nearly 30 years at the Kenworth truck plant. Co-workers described him as reliable and quiet. He married 3 times and had a son. To the outside world, he was ordinary, a man who mowed his own lawn, barbecued, and went to church. Behind this facade, Ridgway methodically hunted women. He targeted sex workers, runaways, and drug users, individuals he felt wouldn't be missed. He often lured them into his truck with promises of money for sex, then attacked once they were isolated. He confessed to returning to the dump sites to have sex with their corpses, acts he later said helped him feel dominant and in control. For years, the Green River Killer case remained cold. The number of known victims rose to over 40. It was one of the most extensive and expensive investigations in U.S. history. By the late 1990s, forensic science had caught up with the case. In 2001, cold case detectives revisited evidence collected in the 1980s, now able to analyze it using modern DNA techniques. The breakthrough came from tiny traces of semen found on the bodies of victims Marcia Chapman, Opal Mills, and Carol Christensen. The DNA matched a man already in the system, Gary Ridgway. He was arrested on November 30th, 2001. In 2003, to avoid the death penalty, Ridgway agreed to a plea deal and began cooperating with authorities. He confessed to murdering 48 women and led investigators to several undiscovered bodies. His confession was chillingly matter of fact. He explained that killing became his career, and he often couldn't remember the names of his victims. Many he killed in a fit of rage. Others he simply strangled while pretending to enjoy their company. On December 18th, 2003, Gary Ridgway was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In later years, he admitted to additional murders, bringing the total number of confirmed victims to 49. However, investigators believe the actual number may exceed 70. Ridgway remains incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. The magnitude of his crimes makes him the most prolific, convicted serial killer in American history. The case left a lasting impact on law enforcement, particularly in the areas of victim profiling, forensic technology, and how police interact with marginalized populations. It also spurred debate about the treatment of sex workers and how their disappearances were often ignored or under-investigated. To this day, the names and stories of Ridgway's victims continue to be remembered by their families, advocates, and a public determined to ensure that such horrors are never repeated or forgotten. Stick around for more. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.